Away down south in the land of traitors, rattlesnakes and alligators. Right away, come away, right away, come away. Where cotton's king and men are chattels, Union boys will win the battles. Right away, come away, right away, come away. We'll all go down to Dixie, away, away. Each Dixie boy must understand that he must mind his Uncle Sam. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie. I wish I was in Baltimore. I'd make secession traitors roar. Right away, come away, right away, come away. We'll put the traitors all to rout. I'll bet my boots we'll whip them out. Right away, come away, right away, come away. We'll all go down to Dixie. Away, away. Each Dixie boy must understand that he must mind his Uncle Sam. Away, away. We'll all go down to Dixie. Away, away. We'll all go down to Dixie. Oh, may our stars and stripes still wave forever o'er the free and brave. Right away, come away, right away, come away. And let our motto ever be for union and for liberty. Right away, come away, right away, come away. We'll all go down to Dixie. Away, away. Each Dixie boy must understand that he must mind his Uncle Sam. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie.
Hey, that's my wife.
Oh, I'm sorry, officer.
Hey, I said quit it. Hey, you trying to blow my cover?
Oh, I'm sorry, officer. So, you think it's funny to lie to the police?
All these programs seem to be about corrupt police dogs.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, what other animal is capable of getting away with it? A dirty house cat? Not likely.
I've only ever traveled on one other airline that had this many canine cop shows.
Yeah, what was it?
It was before the war, and, it was, my God, this is a German airline.
Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. How are you all doing today? I'm doing fantastic. Rex Trek, hello. Looney Tunes 9000, hello. Wicked Foxy Dragon, good to see you. Gulf Coast Grit, hello. Pinkerbell, hello there. Just for fun, good to see you, man. I tell you, I'll tell you what. I'm looking forward to. Hey, Rex Trek, I'm looking forward to the first story we have. No, there's news to cover. I suppose I should follow the pattern, but I'm not going to because I want to talk about the auto workers. Let me just give a brief summary of what's going on with Trump. He keeps admitting to things in interviews. He got interviewed by a weak sauce NBC person. I forget her name. But despite her pathetic lack of pushback, and by the way, thank you, Foxy, for pointing out what a terrible job she did, Trump just couldn't help but to really take responsibility for the attempts to overturn the election. It's going to be a fascinating next 6 to 8 months. I'm going to have to be relatively sober, God help me, for starting pretty soon here because we're about to get to the proper trials. But I invite you all to enjoy, getting stinko because we are going to watch an enemy ship go down in flames, and it'll be a hoot. That said, we are, I don't want to call it more important, but more pressing, more urgent, more requiring of our attention is the struggle for economic equality, for not having a caste system in the United States, for not having royalty in the United States, and by default not encouraging that around the world. We do tend to export our worst business practices. So let's nip it in the bud. It's do you even call them the big three anymore? It's Ford, GM, and Stellantis. Dumb name change. The automakers who intriguing. There we go. The automakers who are enduring a well-deserved strike right now. Yes, indeed. The strike is on. Workers have rediscovered that thing that some folks in America had once back in the day. What was it called? Trying to search my mind here. Pride, self-respect, dignity. They're starting to be, insistent on those things. Want them again. I think rightly so. I think the demands of the striking employees are very fair. I think they're reasonable. And I think they are made intelligently by assessing how much the CEOs boosted their own pay and then asking why didn't the workers get an equal boost. And what they've laid out on the table is this idea. Either there wasn't enough money to give all of the employees a raise, or there was. And if there wasn't, you still gave yourself a 40% raise, CEO. And that equates to millions of dollars, which means you took millions of dollars worth of labor that you didn't need. So we're not going to give you that labor anymore. We're going to write a new contract that requires from us less labor. And by the way, more pay. Because if you think millionaire, multi-millionaire, oftentimes billionaire CEOs, if you think that you're gonna go on just bleeding us, the workers, you're wrong. If you think you're paying us a fair wage, you're wrong. Not easy to be an auto worker. Should be. It's a hard job. You put in the work. You should be able to live a good life. But it's not. Let's get the update because now Ford is blaming the strike for their firing of 600 employees.
Turning now to the auto workers' strike and its huge potential impact on America's economy. The union says the walkout could expand this week as negotiations continue today with the country's three biggest automakers. Ford is blaming 600 new layoffs on the strike, which is now in its fourth day at 3.
I want to be really clear about one thing. First of all, let's just assume that those 600 employees weren't people they were planning on firing anyway. And let's assume that the predicted financial repercussions of the strike have changed the math in such a way that they can no longer afford those 600 employees. To blame it on the strike itself is to choose to stop the buck well ahead of where it should stop. Prematurely, you might say. It's the CEO's fault. It's management's fault. Any negative thing that happens because of the strike is because of the greed of the filthy piggies running the company. it's their fault. So whenever they do nonsense like this, whenever they say, "Oh, we just had to severely damage 600 lives. We had to damage them very badly." Understand that they're doing it in a cowardly way, but read that as it should be read. Their incompetence caused this. Their inability to run a company caused this. Their inability to correctly compensate their workers caused this. The strike had to happen because the leadership of the company was greedy and incompetent. They could not provide for their employees. So it is the leadership of the company's fault.
Factories in the Midwest. Chris Van Cleve is at the picket line just outside the Ford plant in Wayne, Michigan. Chris, good morning.
And Marie, good morning. General Motors is also saying it expects to have to idle a plant in Kansas due to the strike. Now, this comes as union negotiations are set to resume later today with Stellantis, that's the parent of Jeep and Chrysler, and comes after the union rejected the company's latest offer.
It is a fight to take on corporate greed.
A weekend of Democratic heavy hitters rallying striking auto workers.
No justice, no peace.
Nearly 13,000 in Michigan, Missouri, and Ohio walked off the job Friday, halting production of popular SUVs like the Ford Bronco and Jeep Wrangler.
Our members are fed up.
United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain says some progress was made when talks resumed with Ford and General Motors this weekend.
We have a lot of work to do.
I was running out of space on my wall, and I had to decide who was going down. And so I took down my Davy Jones poster and put up one of Shawn Fain. Because he is the fucking man these days.
When it comes to wages, when it comes to retirement security.
Do you feel like you're finding some places of agreement?
We're finding common ground on some things, but we still have ways to go.
The union is currently seeking
they've agreed that employees should be paid poverty wages. They can't seem to see eye to eye on.
At least a 36% raise, cost of living, and job protections, as well as an unwinding of concessions made during the Great Recession when the
Remember, that cost of living adjustment was given up on a handshake agreement between the union representatives and the car companies, essentially, to get them through dire financial times. Oh, the sweet summer children. If only we would have remembered, or rather, if we would have had the foreknowledge of how giant companies like this would act during the pandemic. They will use any excuse, no matter how craven, no matter how base. They will use any excuse to screw over human beings, these CEO pigs. They will do that. Never, ever give them an inch. I don't blame the old union leadership for trying to be gentlemen about it, ladies and gentlemen, trying to help out during a unique situation. But now we know. Now we know. Don't give them nothing. They don't deserve it.
The companies created a tiered paid scale, starting some employees at under $17 an hour, while others make nearly double for the same work.
The way they're treating the new hires coming in just isn't right.
The union rejected automakers' offers centered around a 20% raise. GM CEO Mary Barra on CBS Mornings Friday.
We're at the table now, ready to keep going and get this resolved as quickly as possible.
At Tony M's in Lansing, Michigan, auto workers account for up to 40% of the restaurant's business. Owner Tamara Farrell worries without a deal, the strike could expand to the auto plant literally down the street.
It's going to be tight, and I think it'll affect my employees first. We'll have to cut back on hours so everybody can make it.
All right. No. What have we learned, though? Whose fault is it that those seats will not have asses in them? Whose fault is it? It's the same person who bears responsibility for the entirety of the strike. It is the leadership of these companies. I play the violin for that lady, but the pain is not the fault of the people who are trying to carve out decent lives in the hell. I'm going to do pig one more time. These piggies have provided for us.
So everybody can make it.
A lot of people holding their breath, particularly with the threats of an expanding strike. Now, the people that have walked off the job, Anne Marie, they're going to get $500 a week strike pay. And even though the union is targeting plants that make popular SUVs and trucks, experts say because of existing inventory, it's likely several weeks before consumers will notice a clear impact on dealer lots. Anne Marie?
All right, so consumers that want vehicles will probably be able to get it for a while. But meantime, we can sort of see in your story that there's a very immediate effect when it comes to some of the businesses that depend on these plants, whether they're in the automotive industry or not.
Yeah, we've talked to suppliers that expect there to be impacts to their business. And you talk to auto workers and the businesses that are around auto plants. Auto workers, because they could be told that they're going on strike and walking off the job at any time as these negotiations continue. They're watching their money very closely and making sure that they have savings, because $500 a week.
Microphone. I can't help but to jump in and interrupt this well put together honky. Listen, I understand that that the UAW is supposed to negotiate with the car companies, as in come up with a different set of demands, a somewhat less good set of demands for the workers. I've seen the demands. I'll read them off to you in a list in a moment. They're not unreasonable. More to the point, the car companies have demonstrated they can afford it multiple times over. They just don't want to because they are greedy swine.
A week doesn't go very far, which means they're likely not eating out as much as they would be, maybe not going to some local businesses the way.
Side note, honky, who trying to keep a family alive on $500 a week, who eats out at all? I guess there's McDonald's.
Where we've talked to people that have canceled vacations and stopped looking for a house, so it is clearly having an impact, but at the same time, only about 8% or so of the United Auto Workers that work for the Big Three are currently on strike. So most folks are getting up and going to work today.
You recall when we were facing the possibility of a rail strike here in this country, right? And the Biden administration got involved. There was no strike. And as far as I know, negotiations are probably still ongoing, and the administration is still involved in those negotiations. We have learned that the Biden administration dispatched a couple of aides to head to Detroit to help with this. Margaret Brennan was speaking to Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell on Face the Nation. She didn't think it was a good idea. She didn't think the president should get involved in the negotiations. I'm curious about the people there in Detroit. How do they feel about the Biden administration stepping in?
Well, Maria, it's different than the rail strike, where Congress has the ability to order rail workers back to work. Auto workers don't have that same authority. What we're hearing from people on all sides of this negotiation is that they believe the solutions will come at the negotiating table between the union and the automakers. So far, the people that we have talked to here on the ground weren't aware if those officials were even here in Detroit or what role they would take. And the negotiations quite noticeably continued this weekend without them.
And what's the general feeling among plant workers? It seems like, the two sides are very far apart. There's a possibility that this could be a long haul. You can go 1 month, maybe, but when you get into a second month of not being able to pay your bills, it becomes, you start to have second thoughts. So what are you hearing from people on the picket line now?
Well, the GM strike in 2019 went on for several weeks. So I think people are aware that if there wasn't a deal very quickly, that this could stretch on. I mean, auto workers are concerned. If you go from you go to making $500 a week, that is not a lot of money to feed your family. So we've only talked to one auto worker who who was excited to be on strike. Most of them, are very concerned, but make the argument that it is a necessary step in order.
Yeah, I'm excited that they are on strike. It sucks that they're going to have to endure some hardship, but I'm excited they're on strike because guess what? These are auto workers. They're up there with baristas and flight attendants in terms of common jobs, aka jobs that will set the standard for the rest of us. If they get a 32-hour work week, goddamn, the game changes. That's an acknowledgement that the workers of the world are producing more now than they did back when the 40-hour work week was come up with. In fact, they're producing many, many times more than they used to. We need that acknowledgement. I realize that this kind of conversation tends to wander into a discussion of AI and things you might not think are related. But the fact is, we're transitioning from a world that required we work ourselves damn near to death just to get by to a world where we are working ourselves damn near to death for no damn reason. And while that in and of itself is a tragedy endured by generations unnecessarily, while that is a tragedy, there's a worse one coming if we don't nip this right now. We can't nip it in the bud. The bud has blossomed, but we can still take care of it before it gets worse. Why would it get worse? Because they won't need as many of us. We're doing all the busy work we can. They're paying as little as they can get away with paying. There are literally people dying from lack of pay in this system that we set up that does not provide anything for anybody unless you got $1 to hand to somebody else. So, what happens when they go from needing 100 employees to just one to get a job done? We need to. So I'll answer that. It's not meant to be a mystery. It means 99 people are screwed. 99 people are tossed out on their butts, and one greedy SOB at the top takes their paychecks for themselves as a bonus. That's what's going to happen. So we need to establish a cultural understanding that the compensation needs to go up at the same time as the amount of work each person is expected to do goes down. Don't worry what people will do with their free time. I have seen miracles performed by people for fun on the internet. People will always find ways to be useful and creative and beautiful and, most importantly, productive. But when we let the ultra-rich tell us who is important, the answer will always be whoever is giving them money.
To get the kind of deal that they're seeking, which is a substantial raise over the course of a 3 or 4 year agreement, as well as a bunch of other things like inflation protection, getting rid of those pay tiers we talked about in the story. So the strike is their leverage, and I think they know that. So they're prepared to stick it out. But, I don't think you're going to find anyone over there who's excited to be walking this picket line right now instead of being on the job.
Yeah, of course. And in terms of the union strategy here, picking certain plants to focus on, and I mean, it seems like the strategy is working because the thought process was there would be a trickle-down effect. And now we've seen it. We've seen layoffs with at least one plant. As far as we know, in terms of the union strategy, is this going to be the ongoing approach? Maybe one plant each for each company and then see what the impact might be?
Well, I think that depends a lot on how the negotiations go. If negotiations, because you've got 3 different sets of negotiations. So, it is likely that one automaker might be closer to a deal or might have momentum moving forward that another doesn't. So you could see one specific automaker hit with additional strikes. You could also see additional walkouts at all 3, depending upon how things are going. Striking 3 plants was essentially a warning shot across the bow of the automakers. They targeted plants that make popular and lucrative vehicles, but not the most popular and not the most lucrative. It is certainly not been missed by the automakers that the strike did not happen at the pickup and large SUV plants. The most profitable vehicles these automakers make, in many cases, are things like the Ford F-150, the best-selling vehicle in the country, the Dodge.
Yada, yada. Couple of things here. Number one, understand that the UAW is one of the strongest unions that exists, arguably in the world, but certainly in the United States. And there's another reason, relevant in a moment, there's another reason that they will have chosen to only do this at 3 plants, as opposed to shutting down production of all vehicles across the board. Because that $500 per employee per week adds up real quick. That burns through the war chest real quick. And then you are left with mothers and fathers asking themselves, am I going to really not buy my kid clothes this year for school? Am I just not going to buy him clothes because I don't have money? And then they're going to eventually ask the question, am I going to let my kid starve over this? So, number 1, start a union. Number 2, when you pay your union dues, every once in a while, understand that you are paying yourself later, should you ever need it. Build up as big a war chest as you can. Keep track of that war chest as a member of the union. Understand at all times exactly how much is in there. When you create the union leadership, make that a mandatory thing that they must do. Constantly report to you how much is set aside for striking. If you could have shut down the big 3 automakers in their entirety for weeks at a time, I surely do believe the negotiations would be easier. Here's what I recommend you do. Contact Ford and GM. Stellantis, I fucking hate that dumb name. They despite having a dumb name, are actually playing ball a little bit more. So don't waste your energy yelling at somebody who's already running in the direction you want them to. Ford and GM, they're being a little bit sassy. I don't care for that attitude. How about you? Write them. Say the negotiations should be akin to Russia in Ukraine. Do what the other guy says. That's the negotiation. You can tell them, I don't buy cars from people who have wage slaves, for people who have employees who are barely able to get by. I don't buy cars from you anymore, as of now. One way you can change that, one way you can make me forget, Ford and GM leadership, that you are filth. One way you can make me forget that is to do exactly what the union asks of you. Don't negotiate. Don't waste my time. Don't waste theirs. If I find, when I come out the other side of this, that you were successful, that you managed to batter these employees down, you managed to break their will. If I find out that you did that and you gave them a lesser deal, I'm done with this company. I'm not going to look back again. I'm not going to see if maybe they redeem themselves by doing some silly-ass charity drive 2 months later that they write off anyway. Incidentally, let's dive into that. They probably will in a couple of months, these giant car companies. They probably will do some sort of big charitable event. I just want you to know that they are going to indeed give that money to whoever they said they would, but then they're going to write it off of their taxes. How will a company do that? They just will. They'll find an arcane way to do it. They do this every time. And that means that their charity will simply be taking money for you or from you so that they don't have to pay for your schools or roads. And you'll like them for it. Come. Contact these car manufacturers. Tell them no negotiations with the unions. Just do what they say. They've given you a fair deal. Here is what they are asking for, to be specific. A 40%, this is rounding up, hourly pay increase. It actually is 36%. Reduced 32-hour work week. Yeah, that's what I think we should all have. A shift back to traditional pensions, as in they killed the pension system. They gutted that thing. Of course we should go back to the pensions that used to be. Elimination of compensation tiers. In other words, for the privilege of working for these companies, you agree to take a tiny amount of money, hoping that one day, you'll be able to earn the entry-level pay that your father had. Restoration of cost of living adjustments, which were taken away as a favor to these companies that they, of course, never repaid. Enhanced retiree benefits. Instead of letting people that spent their lives making machines for these companies to sell, instead of letting them just rot in poverty, they actually have to take care of these people that dedicated their lives to the business. Enhanced vacation and family leave benefits because people work themselves to death and do not have much of an opportunity to meet their family along that lonely road. Yeah, those are fine. Those are just fine. I don't think we should be asking them, the workers, to let go of any of those demands or to lessen any of those demands. Those are perfectly fair demands. Bear in mind that the CEO over at Ford gave himself a multi-million-dollar raise just this year. Those demands are fine. Let him know, however, that you, the car buyer, are watching. Fuck. Let him know you're watching. Let's see what y'all have to say. Well, hello, Wireless Mike. Hello, Christy Z. And Donald James. My gosh, good to see Anti-Corporatus. Good Lord, the gang's here. Pendulous Dragon, hello. Wayne Assembly Plant is a main plant. They make the popular new Broncos. See, I don't want to pretend like I don't enjoy the vehicles these folks make. I basically love these cars. GM, Ford, etc. They make fine vehicles. I love the Mustang. I know I'm terrible, but it's a cool looking car. But I'm not going to buy one ever if they're made with suffering. I need suffering-free vehicles. Gulf Coast Grit, in regards to the knock-on effects, Americans have a bad habit of only looking at the tail end of an issue to look for the cause of a problem, instead of following up the chain to the root cause. 100% yes, sir. Wireless Mike, I drive a Toyota. American cars aren't economical enough for me to spend my money on. No, that's fair. Wireless Mike. Oh my God. I just posted a video in the Friday Peace Talk spreadsheets. I promise you won't be disappointed. It's very lighthearted and not on topic, but damn, folks. All right. I should have more discipline. I really should. With where I'm pulling Vidya from. But Wireless Mike has a record over on this channel of finding gold. So let's have a look. I should probably. Oh my God. Oh wait, this is the AI thing. All right, wait. I'm not gonna play it, and here's why. Number one, I did see this. And I had a real moral quandary about it. I'm pretty sure I'm pro AI art. Because what it is essentially a tool that human beings are using to create content, and I think I'm down for that. But I don't want to think about it under pressure, and I'm not sure. The one thing I worry about is somebody, because what you've shown is an incredible. Well, now that we're talking about it, people should probably know the context. And people will, all right, we're going to do this once, but I'm not sure I'm going to do this regularly. Stand by, I'm recording this. Here is something I'm not sure we're going to do again. We're going to look at some AI art. And the reason we're looking at this is because Wireless Mike says it's hilarious and suggested we check it out. I'm down for that. Here's why I'm not sure that we'll ever do it again. I'm not sure how I feel about AI art. Here's why I'm not sure how I feel about it. Because, like, for example, one of my favorite just blow off steam things to watch is like the AI presidents playing D&D. But there's also the use of AI to make images and to make those images move. And even though it's pretty janky these days, we are not too far away from very realistic looking video footage of well-known politicians appearing to say things that the actual politician never said. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm just explaining to you why it makes me a tiny bit nervous and why it makes me not want to add to it. That said, with such a big introduction on this, explaining what it is you're seeing, I have no fear that this will contribute to that. And it's probably good that you guys have an idea of what it looks like now so you can recognize the ancestors of this technology when they come to be. Also, in full disclosure, Wireless Mike and I have a very similar sense of humor, and I want to see this episode of this particular, I think they call it the Trump Show.
Hey folks, it's me, your favorite president.
And me, your favorite MAGA loser hypocrite.
Gee, Bobo, don't beat yourself up. Just because you got kicked out of a theater for vaping, taking flash pictures, and grabbing your BF's baloney pony while he fondled your fake-as-fuck flapjacks doesn't make you a bad person.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
It makes you a Republican.
Exactly.
Anywho, we have a huge announcement to make, don't we, Bobo?
That's right. I, Lauren Boebert, will be co-hosting episode 16 of The Trump Show right here on Scared Ketchup's YouTube channel.
The video will go live today at 12 noon left coast time, so be sure to check it out.
We will be taking a deep dive into some of the issues that we skipped in episode 15.
To be more precise, we'll be getting into my favorite subject, groping.
It will be very informative because President Trump is a world-renowned expert on the subject.
Didn't they used to call me the groper-in-chief?
Yes, they did.
We'll also be looking at some of the best memes and videos that were inspired by your little night of fun.
I'm so excited.
So am I, Bobo, so am I.
Is that because my hand is on your penis again?
That would be a yes.
So stay tuned to Scared Ketchup's YouTube channel for episode 16 of The Trump Show, live at noon today. Bye.
Wait a minute, that's not the whole thing. We're coming back.
Vape ho, vape ho. Usher, come and you got to go home. Vape. She's a vape, she's a vape, she's a vape, she's a vape, she's a vape ho. Usher, come and you got to go home.
Come on.
Work in Congress and she drinks some rum. Usher, come and you got to go home. For a congressperson, she is awfully dumb. Usher, come and you got to go home. Come, Mrs. Boebert, lay off his banana. Usher, come and you got to go home. So security camera got you in the panorama. Usher, come and you got to go home. He grabbed your boobs, inappropriate touch. Usher, come and you got to
Can't
go
lip sync if I'm gonna break every line.
values, maybe not so much. Usher, come and you got to go home. Vape, she's a vape ho. Usher, come and you got to go home. Vape.
Amazing.
She's a vape.
Oh, God. God, it's Beatles. Delightful. Delightful. You were quite right, Wireless Mike. That was a fantastic suggestion, and I thank you for it. Well, it wasn't totally off topic either. I do want to see what you guys have to say about AI. Art's Pendulous Dragon. Look at his tiny hand. Yeah. A wicked foxy dragon. It might not be something they said, but you know it is something they really thought. Yeah, 100%. My dogs are goth. Obvious fake. Oh yeah. Right now, the technology is in it as what's that phrase? In its infancy. But it's here, and it's got big paws. We're not terribly far away from it being a concern, but I'll tell you what, there's other fires to put out right now, and there's an argument to be made. This is why I said I'm not sure as opposed to I'm against it. There's an argument to be made for getting very familiar with that content so that it's easier to recognize, and we have the tool sets as a culture to recognize it. But do understand we also live in a country where The Onion often puts out articles that people think are real. The anti-corporatists, I don't care for the slut shaming, despite the target in Big's hood. Despite the target Big's hood is, but otherwise that's hilarious. Yeah, I agree. I don't think generally use of the word hoe is a good insult, because I'm fine with hoes, as if I understand the word correctly. But I do think that Lauren Boebert is, generally speaking, trashy. Donald James X, but the tech will improve drastically. Yes, exactly. Christy Z to Donald James both scare the hell out of me. That's fair. Yes, Donald James. It should be law to disclaim AI on all videos. I totally agree. Wireless Mike, this is the only use of AI art I will tolerate. I'll tell you this. I think it's just fine. As long as, for example, what Donald James points out, like as long as it's disclosed. One thing I liked about that, and the other, like for example, the AI presidents, etc., is that part of the gag is that it's AI. There's nobody that I've seen right now like inserting fake Trump into things, saying he did this, that, or the other thing. Oh wait, there is Ron DeSantis, but Republicans are going to do the worst possible thing a human can do in any given situation constantly, because they don't have those things that Ron Burgundy had one. Jesse Jackson, souls. They don't have souls. All right, we do have the return of someone to this channel that I think we have used maybe 80 billion times, because they are the reigning champion on the internet of getting complex points across simply. And in full disclosure, I didn't go live yesterday, well, mostly because I was surrounded by dogs that were extremely needy, but also because I was hoping Bo would talk about this very thing that we're going to discuss in a moment. And we're going to talk about the opportunities it presents. But let's start with the bad news. Alrighty, there we go. Ken Paxton was acquitted Mountain of evidence against him. Clearly corrupt behavior, but he was acquitted in the Senate in Texas. He was not impeached, which means Texas retains its incredibly corrupt attorney general. Let's have a gander at what that means through the lens of our old pal Bo of the Fifth Column.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So
Howdy, Bo.
today we are going to talk about Texas and Paxton and impeachment and acquittal and what it all means. Okay, so what do we know? Okay. What we know is that Republicans in the House impeached the Republican Attorney General, and then Republicans in the Senate acquitted him. That's what we know. So what can we infer from what we know for sure? There is a huge split within the Republican Party. And that's mirrored nationwide. You have the far right party, the sedition caucus style party, and then you have the Reagan-Bush style Republicans. And they are not happy with each other. And this is now reflected in state politics. I would imagine that this is going to carry through to the primaries, to the election, all of that. If you have ever thought about getting...
Oh, I've spoiled it. There we are. So listen, I do want to pause for a moment and talk about the difference there between the what he calls the Reagan-style Republicans. I sometimes refer to as the GOP, short for Grand Old Party, which is an old nickname for the Republican Party. They really are the old Republican Party. It's like two different styles of bank robbers. The MAGA types, they are the kick in the door, gun everything down that moves, leap over the counter, stuff as much money from the under the counter as they can into a bag with a dollar sign on it, and then spray. What am I talking about? They wouldn't be that fancy. Into a dollar store grocery bag, and then sprint out of the building. They are irresponsible and short-sighted. They endure a ton of consequences for very little gain. And what they consider to be gain is stealing from you. However, don't get it twisted. Those Senate Republicans he's talking about that need to be elected by wider areas, they're just more responsible bank robbers. They're, the sort of people that slide a note over to the branch manager saying, "This is your kid's school, and we have someone outside there right now. Open the vault, please." And then they go into the vault, and they take the big bills, and they remove the die packs, usually, and they wind up often getting away with it because they are professional crooks that are currently dealing with Mr. Blonde in their party. So that's the difference here. But understand that long-term, their goals are very similar. It's to bleed the country for as much as they possibly can. Really, it's to bleed the world using their position within one country. For as much as they possibly can. And if they happen to hurt people along the way, that gives them half a chub. So, that's who they are. But now, Bo has a message regarding the people of Texas. And if you're from Texas, I hope you'll listen to this gentleman.
Getting involved in Texas politics, all of that. If you have ever thought about getting involved in Texas politics, now is your time. Because there's going to be a lot of upheaval, a lot of score settling going on. There will be openings. But that doesn't tell us everything.
So the question then is why? Why will there be upheaval? And why was there disagreement over whether or not to impeach this guy? Did they see different evidence? Well, no. But they made different calculations about how their political futures will pan out, depending on the evidence that was presented. I'm going to toss it back to Bo for the remainder, but I just want you to be aware that we are going to focus on that again.
It comes to the behavior of Republicans and people looking at the impeachment as a whole. The two main theories that developed, one is there's something we don't know. Okay, most people took that to mean another allegation or perhaps more proceedings of a different kind of nature dealing with Paxton. The other is that it's something personal. The personal one kind of fell apart because if it was something personal, odds are the Senate would have voted the other way. It would make more sense for them to have voted the other way if it was something personal. So we're back to there's something we don't know. Whatever it is, we still don't know it. But we can gain a little bit of insight into the Senate with this. Whatever it is, they believe the average voter in Texas will not care about it. That's their position. That's what this vote means.
I do want to say I don't understand his reasoning here, and I welcome your input. If it was personal, I would think this is how they would vote. Like, oh, this is just personal beef between someone in the House or someone's in the House and Ken Paxton, and so we will vote to acquit. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't see why personal is taken out of the equation. That said, Jesus God, Bo of the Fifth Column knows his business. So I would go with his interpretation over my own on that particular. In fact, my interpretation is to say, let's defer to Bo's. But I just want you to understand that I don't understand what his reasoning is there. And again, if you believe you've got it, let me know, and I'll learn from you.
Or they view it in a situation where their vote will make it to where nobody cares about it. And they'll dismiss it by saying, well, the Senate investigated it, and they found he didn't do anything wrong.
Take the die packs out.
That's a possibility as well. But that's a big gamble, because it all depends on how the average voter in Texas views Paxton's actions. If the average voter in Texas views it as he didn't do anything wrong, this is normal politics, then the Senate votes are probably right. Nobody's going to care. But if the average voter in Texas looks at his behavior and says that's out of line, that's corrupt, or that's just not something we want, they just co-signed that behavior.
As much as I would like to fantasize that we live in such a country where traditionally conservative voters will gather around and say, wait a minute, we have an actual moral judgment to make here. Nay, we have an ethical judgment to make here. No, come on. They will see what the Senate did. I think Bo correctly spotted this. They will see that the Senate acquitted him and say he didn't do nothing wrong. I don't know why I used that accent. That wasn't even Texas. But they'll say he didn't do anything wrong because there were no consequences. And we are a group of...
See it as my senator can't tell right from wrong. Or they may look at it and say, these weren't real big things, not a big deal. This is just normal Southern politics. Republicans in the House may end up paying for it. The long and the short of this is it's not over. The impeachment battle, the trial, all of that, that's not the end of this story. The end of this story won't really be told until the voters decide whether or not they think the behavior covered by the impeachment was appropriate, and whether or not they think the senators co-signed it, or whether or not they think the House Republicans were playing partisan games.
But, I think the biggest takeaway here is this. Woof. Well, listen, side note, if you're watching the live stream and haven't been able to see anything for the last few minutes, I'm sorry. It looks like we're having internet issues, but I'm going to plow on through because we are also recording this and I will upload it. The takeaway from Bo here is that whether or not the voters are swayed that Paxton did something wrong, the fact is there was not unity with the Texas Republican Party. The House went one way, the Senate went another. You can use that. Here's what I recommend you do. In particular, run for office. If you live in Texas, it is a great time for that. There are going to be hurt feelings that show up in the voting booth that might not even be reflected in the polls. There is going to be a lot of hate that Ken Paxton spreads around to his enemies. And guess what? Even the normal voter interference that Texas Republicans try their damnedest to do, that's going to get watered down because they are going to be holding on to grudges. If you don't live in Texas, donate either money or time to progressives running for office in Texas in about 6 months. A little more. The start of summer next year. Have a gander at progressives running in Texas and pick one and join their team. Spend a weekend of time making calls for them, or send them $50. Start a swear jar right now and understand that in the beginning of next summer, you are going to send the contents of that swear jar to a progressive campaign in Texas. We have a rare opportunity here in Texas to do a lot of things. One of them, a huge one, is going to be keeping fascists out of the White House, keeping the United States a democracy. But boy howdy, another one is actually, for the first time in my lifetime, putting competent leadership in Texas at the state level. It's an opportunity that we shouldn't miss. And I thank Bo for laying out the situation. Shame Paxton didn't get impeached, but c'est la vie. Or shame he didn't get tossed out, I should say. Well, folks, I tell you, based on, oh, there we go. Yep, wireless mic. And Bob Treesh correctly identifying that it is my new place is. Oh, garbage internet. You guys can never talk to my old landlord. I can't go back. She was fine. Nothing wrong with her, but I got to be able to hold my head high. Working on it. Let's hope we get it fixed by this Saturday, which, by the way, is Wicked Fight Night. Coming soon. Wait, coming Saturday. September 23rd. I hope you'll be there for that. I'm not going to push my luck any further with this particular stream. Thank you for joining me. And this has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can't Do. I'll see you next time.